I thought we'd do something a little bit different today and talk about drums. I know, right? Weird. A few years ago, I posted a video about the drum equipment I use. I went over all the drum sizes, the cymbals, pedals, and so on. However, the thing that seemed to generate the most interest was my drum mics. Not so much the mics themselves, but the fact that they were mounted inside the drums. And it makes sense. Unless you've had some sort of experience with them, you really wouldn't know what they sound like. So I thought I'd make a quick video and share my experience about it. Now keep in mind, when it comes to gear, everyone has an opinion, but most of them are wrong. Except for me, of course. But when it comes to gear, I don't believe there's ever a clear winner. There's no right or wrong, there's only choices. Just like guitar players, some guys might prefer a Marshall, while other guys might like a Fender Twin. It's up to the person playing to decide which one is better, even though a Marshall is the clear winner here. And drum mics are no different. However, miking a drum from inside the shell does change the sound. It's up to you to decide whether that's a sound you like. So let's talk about the setup. Installing internal drum mics is pretty straightforward. Even a stupid person could do it. They say it's not nice to judge stupid people for judging other stupid people, but stupid people likely don't realize just how stupid other stupid people are. Now, the system I use is made by a guy named Randall May. Randy has quite a few products, and all of them are pretty great. I'll be sure to leave a link below for those that might be interested. Now, just to be clear, this isn't a sponsored video. I'm just trying to share my experience with them because I've been asked about it so many times. So let's take a look at a 13-inch tom. The first thing we need to do is remove the grommet from the vent hole. It's easier if you take the drum head off first. But who am I to judge? Then we feed the cable through the vent hole and secure everything. Next, we need to connect the cable to the microphone. Then remove the screws from one of the lugs, and install the microphone housing. Then point the mic toward the center of the drum head. And that's pretty much it. Might want to put the drum head back on, but you do you. Now, we can talk about mics for hours, but at the end of the day, you need to hear them. That's the only way you're going to know if you like the way it sounds. Or not. You can use pretty much any microphone you like. However, I've been an Audix endorser for 15 years or more, so today we'll be using Audix.
Yes.
Now, when I use internal mics, I use D4s in the rack toms, and I usually put an Audix D6 in each floor tom. But for this test, I want it to be apples to apples. So we're going to use an Audix D4 for both examples. And we're going to use a 16-inch floor tom because that's a pretty common drum. Now, there's no processing here. It's just straight into the board and straight into the camera. However, I did have to lower the gain with the internal mics because they tend to run a little hot. Let's go hit something. Isn't this exciting? Well, there you have it. So which one do you prefer? Now, there's a few other things to consider. First off, isolation. With the mic inside the drum, you limit the need for noise gates. You may still need them, but it's certainly reduced. Here's a quick example. The sound is also more consistent with the internal mics. It also makes your setup faster and easier. On the other hand, if a microphone goes bad, well, it's inside the drum. Another thing to keep in mind, having the microphone inside the drum is always going to produce a certain sound. But it's up to you to determine whether or not you like that sound. You're on your own there. For me, I go back and forth. I'll use them for a while, then I'll pull them out and just run everything from up top. Old school and such. I like the size of the drum being mic'd externally. It sounds the same way my ears hear it. It just sounds natural. Then I'll begin to miss that top end, that smack, and I'll toss them back in. But I've learned to be okay with that. Instead of trying to decide, I just use whatever inspires me at the time. Now, the one exception is the bass drum. Up until about 2 years ago, I'd place a D6 in front of the port of each bass drum. However, about a month after I made that video, I installed 2 monorails, again, made by Randall May. This allows me to get the microphone about an inch or so from the batter head. Then I can still throw a D6 in front of the port if I feel I need it. However, I usually don't bother, because I'm usually more interested in finding a McDonald's so I can get a milkshake. I'm an optimist. Alright guys, that's going to do it. Let me know in the comments which one sounds the best to you. And as always, if you haven't already subscribed, well, I wouldn't bother. However, if you've enjoyed the video, maybe give it a like. It actually helps. And for those interested in merchandise, please visit store.themaddrummer.com. You know, a bunch of Mad Drummer shirts inside your bass drum sounds way better than a pillow. You may have to buy 20 of them or so, but I'm totally okay with that. Thanks for watching. So let's talk about the setup. Installation, that ain't it. So let's talk about the setup. Installing internal drum mic, damn. Now just to be clear, this isn't a sponsored video. I'm just trying to share my experience with them because I've been asked about them so many times. Well, that one sucked. L for the lose. However, the thing that seemed to generate the most interest. God. But when it comes to gear, I don't believe there's ever a clear winner. There's only right or wrong. There's only right or wrong. That's not it. Now, we can talk about mics for hours, but at the end of the day, you need to hear them. That's the only way you're going to know, I think, a spit. I like the size of the drum being mic'd externally. It sounds the same way my ears hear it. Ear hears it? Ears hear it. Don't matter, I'm deaf.